Okay, here we go. Now I'm up and running, sort of. Hold on 1 second. Almost there. Almost there. And here, there we go. All right, good. Hi, good morning. How are you? Good to see you. Hello. Good afternoon, good day, good morning. This is the morning show, but it happens, as it happens, as you do, when you do the thing that you do. Do you do? Happy Hump Day to everybody. We are midweek for some. If you have a normal working schedule, this is the kind of thing that this is that day where you're coming over the hump. You're heading towards the weekend, which you are, according to Loverboy, working for. And I, on the other hand, this is these days, since I'm live streaming, my week doesn't really ever stop. But this weekend, I'm doing stand-up in San Diego, so it's back to kind of my abnormal, normal schedule. So this is like the beginning of my week. Like, today is the travel prep day. Tomorrow is travel. Friday will be press shows. And then Saturday will be radio shows. And then Sunday will be show. And then Monday, travel back. And so it's really odd sometimes having your work week shifted completely off the grid from everybody else's. It's nothing, it's nothing to complain about. It's just a curiosity part of life for me. Anyway, so that's what's going on in my neck of the nape and the nape of the woods. And what else? Went and saw the Northmen last night. Enjoyed it quite thoroughly. Nicole Kidman is angry, creepy. Skarsgård is a howling brute. It's pretty great. The story of like Slavic slavery is pretty well portrayed in the movie, I will say. And a lot of it's interesting that the beginning of the story takes place in the geographical area around what would be modern day Ukraine and Belarus, and that the Russian tribes, this is an old story. It's actually, for those of you who don't know, the Norsemen is a Viking myth that Hamlet was taken from. Yes, that's right, Casbah. Right as I said it. Yeah. So it's Shakespeare took that traditional story, that oral traditional story from the Vikings and turned it into Hamlet. And there, interestingly enough, let me see if I can find this. There is a, yeah. Is it I think I want to call it, when they did another version of it. Yeah, there we go. And the poster on it is friggin' fantastic. Okay, so here's the, let me go back. I got to put these two together so you can see them right next to each other. Hold on. They, I get a poster picture of it. There you go. So this is, the poster for the Northmen. That's Skarsgård. There's Kidman. This is Ethan Hawke, by the way. It's really, it's brutal and great. I think this is, yeah, Bjork played the blind seer. It looks like a really high dollar Black Label Society video. It's fantastic. It's very cinematic, which is why I wanted to go see it in the theater. As I will go see Top Gun the same way. But it's really brutal, as to reflect the time and the hand weapons that you can see. There was another version of this story made a long time ago with Lee Majors. Lee Majors was the $6 million man, for those of you that may or may not know. And they recreated the mythology. I I don't know what that lady is doing. I think she's showing contempt for the audience. I'm pretty sure. This lady right here. Yes, Lee Majors, the $6 Million Man. Also, the Fall Guy, where the second series he had where he played a stuntman who solves crimes. Yeah, the horns are not historically accurate. No, he's not wearing horns. He's got bird wings on his helmet. These are off, definitely. These are not, yeah. But in the poster, he's got the bird wings, which is, pretty close. There he is as the Norseman in 1978, which now I have to see. But doesn't really quite compete with this, as you might understand. It's if I had to do a comparative energy take on it, I would say it reminds me of elements of the Remnant. The Revenant. Listen to me. The Revenant. Beg your pardon. Why am I saying Remnant? Okay. Why am I saying Remnant? Okay, hold on. Because I was looking for pictures. Hold on. Turn that off, and then click this over here. The Revenant was the Revenant. Get out of here. With Leo DiCaprio. Did anybody ever see that? Do you guys see The Revenant? I love it. I think it's great. And it is heartbreaking and beautiful. And if you want to, it does do a pretty good job of showing what life was like on the frontier. Historically speaking. Robin's seen it 5 times. I own it. It's great. It's brutal though. And it's, let's see. Yeah, based on this book. And it there are parts of it that are just, it's about heartbreak in a lot of ways. So it's rough. And it's a revenge story. And similarly, the Northman is a revenge story, based around the heartbreak of it. If you know Hamlet, you basically know the outline of the story. There are elements that are different, and it doesn't all take place in the kingdom, and it's spread out over a large swath of geography at the time. It's truer to what occurred back then in the day. But Nicole Kidman would be Lady Macbeth in this, and his character's father was murdered by his brother on her behalf because they were in love. And that's the closest elements. Ethan Hawke plays his father. And his name is Amlish. Yeah. And yes, he does sleep inside a horse carcass so he doesn't freeze to death. His horse dies falling off a cliff, so he cuts it open like a tauntaun and lives inside till he breaks out of it. And then he comes across an Indian who has killed a buffalo and basically begs for food, doesn't speak the language, but begs for food from the guy, and the guy throws him the liver, which most people, when I remember seeing this, when the movie happened, they were like, he didn't even give him some meat. He gave him the liver, whatever. The liver is actually the most life-sustaining part of an animal. And back then it was the prize of, you could take the meat and you could make jerky out of it and that could feed everybody. But the liver had so many minerals and nutrients and a lot of fat in it that it could sustain you back then. And so having the liver was a huge deal. So the guy gave him a big chunk of the liver and he's eating it and he's almost barfing because he's eating raw liver and it's gross. But the liver is the most right in nutrients. Exactly. So yes, for real. So the fact that this guy gave him the liver was actually a sign that he was being magnanimous beyond what he even needed to do. So it's funny how people watch that and think the Indian in that story is either being a dick or dismissive, when in reality he's doing exactly the best thing to save somebody's life. So Yeah, if you're living back then and somebody gives you, a liver, there you go. The guts of the horse Leonardo DiCaprio takes refuge and were made out of latex and air. Well, of course they were. What are these little. Tom Hardy this is the best acting I've ever seen Tom Hardy do. I'm not a tremendous fan of some of his other stuff. I think he's great in Inception as well, but his character doesn't let him build something quite as much. It's kind of a cute character, personality wise, but this character is awesome. The villain, he's basically the villain in the story, and it's this crisscross of stuff and like just his emotional and ethical decisions. It's fascinating because I love the fact that he is, by all accounts, awful. He's a self-serving prick who will kill you to save his own life, and even if it's not necessary, he'll kill you to take what's yours. That said, in the time that they're in, you see him as a more practical human being than as a villain for a good portion of it, because it was so bad. If you take modern sensibilities and lay it over Tom Hardy's character and you go, why doesn't he just do this? Why doesn't he just do that? You are filling in the gaps in that character's reality with your own options, which didn't exist. Cell phones, roads, regular sources of food, not having to worry about, tribes and the French and the British around every corner trying to kill you and take your pelts, that kind of stuff. Like, all the dangers in that world inform how awful he is willing to be. And so in a lot of ways, he's, as they used to say, gone native back in the day, because because of trust. Yeah, but he was very much, he would have been a serial killer in modern time. That's right, Shmovie. And I have a real problem with modern villains, the way they paint them in modern stories, and people trying to make them cool and sympathetic and stuff, which is just lazy fucking writing. I've always said that if an actor says to me villains are the most fun to play, then you're not playing a villain. You're playing a hero that's misunderstood in your own mind, which is not how villains operate. And the idea that somehow the way you play a character is to find what they like about themselves is horseshit. Because you can feel like empowered or completely validated, but not like yourself. People do that all the time. You can know what you're doing is, or think what you're doing is righteous, and at the same time hate yourself for doing it. So the idea that you have to find something you like about you is just ridiculous. And it's so cartoonishly thin. You simply have to find the reason and stick to the reason. You have to find, as I believe, as an actor, you have to find the what they would traditionally call the character's motivation, why they do what they do, and just stick to that. How villain or anti-hero, if you have to play one, go. Villain, because I don't believe in anti-heroes. I think that's a modern construct that's bullshit. I feel like anti-heroes are created for artificial cathartic release, and they're largely bullshit. They should be comic characters. So, but I would absolutely play a villain. But I would not want anybody to say my villain is so cool. I would want them to fear and despise that person. Otherwise, I'm not playing a villain. I'm playing somebody who's just flawed and broken and does one wrong thing, which any character in a movie can do. If you're the antagonist in the story, you have to be more than just somebody who's making mistakes or who's scared or whatever the fuck. Yeah, welcome. And her name in the story is Olga. There's some, kind of understanding that she's crafted around Olga of Kiev, which is pretty cool. There's a bit of a Braveheart situation between the two of them. There's some, Valkyrie storyline stuff that's just fantastic in it. I enjoyed Valhalla Rising, although I found it kind of, cheaply reflective of people's assumptions about life in those times. There was too much of a modern sensibility overlaid on it. This scene was really cool too. He fights to get the sword from his ancestor who's in this tomb. He has to go find it and use it to kill the guy who killed his dad. That's part of the prophecy. And there's a scene where he has to take it from this dead soul. It's really cool. It's a beautiful scene, and there's a lot of tension in it because you feel like you don't know how it's going to go, which is very strange in most of these situations. Most of these situations, you're like, I know that he's going to get this, and he's going to continue on, but it's crafted in such a way that you don't necessarily know that he's not going to have to solve the problem another way after being nearly tortured to death or something, because that happens too. So there's a lot of that, and this is Ethan Hawke. The death of the father scene is pretty serious, and the kid watches as his dad dies at the hands of his brother because he's knocking boots with the kid's mom. I mean, they're not messing around, and it's got visually poetic imagery in it that, if you remember in the Revenant, there were these he would have these visions of his dead wife and child, and she would be meeting him under a tree on a hilltop. That's his son, and when he would sleep, he would see her kind of beckoning to him, and they're at the sort of edge of the tree of life. Which is a really beautiful imagery. The bear attack scene in the Revenant is horrifying and brutal and just it feels very personal at times. You can feel like that. You can see sort of the shock, pain, and frustration in it. That's really well done. Bears, of course, in native and Viking and Northern European and Norse and Irish mythology, representing the greatest spirit of the forest. And so if it tries to take you, if it will, and if it spares you at all, means you were meant to survive. And so there was a lot of imagery both taken from that back then, but also, in how these characters will see that as well. But I loved it. I mean, I own that one. I bought the Norsemen as well, because of partly because of the cinematography and the story of it. The pacing of it is very like Ad Astra. I don't know if anybody saw Ad Astra, but the pacing in it is it's very patient. It's a very patient movie. I did not go over the election yesterday. They have not found out. We'll deal with some of that this morning. Because it was when I was doing the show, it was sort of ongoing. We'll cover it this afternoon because they'll probably have a better idea. It looks like McCormick is actually probably going to win in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's weird to root for such a prick, but what's the name of or title of the classic Viking saga? What do you mean in oral tradition or? Yes, Fetterman is the Democrat. He had a stroke scare, not necessarily a stroke. It was just they thought that might be it. I personally think it's very possible he had panic-related heart palpitations that led to an exaggeration of that triggered a physical response. Yeah. Yeah, Mastriano can't win statewide, so I'm fine with that. He had a TIA? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's the story. They're talking about him getting a pacemaker, but he's going to be fine. Yes, that's right. I'm using my new visual board that I made. Well, this is a different one. This is actually a larger scale one, so I can show bigger items and the like. But I still have to. Hold on. I didn't do this. That's the one thing I didn't do. This is the. It's the. Where am I? Okay, let's see. Whoops. There we go. Now I can at least point a little further. And I moved my desk back away from the camera. I'm further away. I've got to move my mic because there's a little too much distance between my mouth and the microphone, and I think does it sound okay, or does it sound kind of roomy? That's you guys can help me out with that. Can you tell us the last hour of the Norsemen? Yes, I can tell you to watch. Well, the River of Fire part of the prophecy. Oh, good. Okay, excellent. It is a little roomy. Voice sounds lower. Okay, well, I turned it up a little bit yesterday. Bit echoey. Yeah, that's the room sound. So I've got to move the mic closer to my face for this. So I'll work on that as the next step. But the thing I have it mounted on is hooked to the back of the desk, which is way too far away. So I've got to get another arm to come in here. So I'll work on that. I promise. There you go. And now my arm can go all the way out the screen over here. There you go. So we went and saw that last night. Ethan and I went to a movie. It was really great. And yeah, hang some soft fabrics. Well, the room isn't particularly reflective. The issue is that the mic is just far away. This is meant to be a closer mic. It's meant to be about here, and it's like 1.5 feet away. So it's going to sound that way. I'll get it. Use a wireless lav mic. I have one. Many people know I used to use a wireless lav all the time, and it was intermittent and scratchy, and I couldn't figure out why the fuck. So excellent. Well, and I'm chipping away at that, so I'll work on that afterwards because I moved all this stuff, so it kind of shook my system up a little bit, and I've still got a little bit more tweaking to do. So wish me luck. That said, Chip is upstairs asleep, all the way upstairs. So although these days Chud has been coming down meowing at me like crazy. We got her on glucosamine for her joints because she's an older cat. We started putting glucosamine in her cat food. It's like this little drop that you do. So when I feed Chip and her in the morning, I go and she sleeps on the couch. So I go and I pick her up and I bring her to her food. So, so she didn't have to hop down. Well, now the glucosamine is working so well that she's meeting me there already. And now she comes down the stairs and meows at me. She came around the other day and I was like organizing. I was wrapping wires was what I was doing. I had a stack of wires and a stack of cable ties, and I was just doing that kind of organization. And she was like, meow, meow, and just hopped up. It was great. So it really has helped. We're very, very lucky about that. It's great. Okay, so let's check in on our morning trends. Downton out, Abby. I could not be less interested in a movie. Okay, latest updates from the May 17 primaries. Giselle spoke on his behalf and said, he won the state Democratic primary. He's going to be fine. Good dude. Doug Mastriano, he's going to lose the governorship in the governor's race in Pennsylvania. He's going to lose horribly. So that's good news. These, I don't know, 5 takeaways from the primary election results. These 3. All right. I love how they say for nation's first openly lesbian governor, because you're supposed to think that they were just like all the lady governors we've had before, but they're probably gay. No winner yet. Well, that's true. No matter if somebody succeeds in becoming the candidate, they're all losers. Cawthorn lost. See, that's what you get for calling out the Matt Gaetz Coke parties. Matt Gaetz, you got to understand, Matt Gaetz has a bigger grip on the party than you do, dude. And you can't call that stuff out and survive because they're going to come after you. It's, there was that story, where was it? Michigan. There was a Michigan GOP meeting, and there's 3 witnesses talking about the Coke and the sex stuff that Gaetz was involved in. In the stories that are coming out right now, that he was screaming at the FBI for coming after him about the Joel Greenberg stuff. There's an anecdotal story about that. I'll show it later on today. I have no doubt it will be part of it. 5 key. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Ingram Angle shares next steps Americans must take after the primary elections. Oh, do tell. Are they written, or is this just an article, like a clip? Okay, it's a clip at first. There's okay. Click here if I was paying attention to Democrats' predictable masquerade unfolding months before the midterms, shooting all before it's blah, blah, blah. Okay, apparently there's not a lot to this.
Now, well, whatever the outcome in this GOP primary tonight, it's time to put aside differences, shelve the petty squabbles, a lot of nipping at each other, all come back together to take back the Senate in November.
Real oversight.
Now, under one-party control by the Schumer-Pelosi socialists, America's going broke, woke, and becoming a joke. It's time for real oversight of Biden's runaway federal agencies. It's time to slam the brakes on his inflation-stoking agenda, with, of course, a Republican-controlled Congress. But the left, they're not going to go down without a fight. No way. They're going to try to hang on to their power by any means necessary. Now, when they're not blowing up the economy,
so there are a lot of
blowing up race relations, they're shifting blame,
would not participate
or, as we all know, they're distracting with phony narratives.
So fuck off.
The American experiment in democracy,
just in general, all right,
is in a danger,
awful woman,
like it hasn't been in my lifetime. It's in danger this hour. Hate and fear are being given too much oxygen by those who pretend to love America.
I believe anybody who echoes a replacement is to blame, not for this particular crime, but it's for no purpose.
Yes, there'll be a bunch of this.
No purpose.
This is the dude who's like, we got a bunch, we're doing good, and there's a bunch of mail-in votes still to be counted. His polling is telling him
he's always hearkening back to Trump, right? The ghost of Trump is always hovering over Biden. But my Lord, is this playbook
and if anybody was
dog-eared
affected
or what?
by people
Most voters know that
Barrett
Charlottesville or January 6th, Buffalo,
at his lead,
they're all Biden's greatest hits. They're not America's greatest hits.
Chipping away at his lead, it was Barrett.
This isn't going to work.
Catherine Barrett.
So you have to ask yourself, what's next for the Democrats?
Ate a bunch of his votes.
I'm going to call it tonight the populist pivot. Democrats are going to try to claim that they, not Republicans, that were Republicans challenging them,
no difference
are the true populists, that they're the ones out there fighting for the little guy.
In particular,
their I'm relatable ploy is their go-to desperation
relationship with Oprah.
I'm glad for everybody who's
their
joining
belief
this
that she's a
video.
baby
It's
eater,
great to hear from
and
you.
his
Hold on a sec. I'm going to
previous support for
beer.
gender affirming surgery. Oh, sorry. What's happening? Oh, Laura's playing? Oh no, I'm sorry. That wasn't even supposed to play. That auto played. Yikes. Sorry, everyone. Sorry, I get it. Sorry, I got it. Got it. It went into autoplay. It's not, I don't know why. I didn't give that permission. Fox News didn't ask my permission to autoplay. Christ almighty. I did, yeah. I don't know. I don't listen to I'm sorry. I didn't have my ears on. I apologize because I don't normally play audio clips in the morning. For darn. All right. 3 takeaways. Okay, these are all the takeaways. There's a lot of takeaways. Apparently, it's all carry out. Chris Wallace, Howard Stern, singer Harry Styles makes an appearance in the Howard Stern show. I don't care. Okay. Chris Wallace, new gig revealed after CNN Plus. Oh, okay, so he's Sunday show on CNN. Yeah, they're gonna keep him. Howard Stern. COVID. Amber Heard is a psychopath is trending. That's fascinating. Yeah, this is yeah. Is that his lawyer? One of his lawyers? Yeah. I gotta say, this, yeah. What is this? So this picture was taken December 2015, according to Iraqi, but the calendar's back says January 2015. Yeah, you can't, what was this? The more actually admitted to alerting TMZ about the divorce in 2016. Yeah, she went, I had my custody stuff in the same courthouse she filed divorce in LA. And there's a side entrance that most people go through. Like the parking for the courthouse, it is on, like, if the building is a block like this, if it's a big rectangle, the parking is over here, okay? And there's a street that dead ends into the courthouse. The front of the courthouse is here, the back of the courthouse, and then there's a side entrance here. The parking for it that most people use is over here. If you get dropped off, this is the best place because there's less traffic on this thing. Broadway is the front of it, or is it Spring? Anyways, whatever, the street that's on the front of the courthouse is relatively busy, and there's a lot of foot traffic that goes in and out of there. But most people who have anything serious park over here. And if you're going to spend a lot of time there, which I had to over the years, and you enter in through this way and you walk back this way and you go in here. She had them drop her off in a giant Escalade on the front steps, walked in and walked out. And you don't even have to show up for the temporary restraining order. Your lawyer files that, and then the judge rules on it with the evidence. There's no hearing about it because you can't really. There's no point of a hearing for a TRO because the other person is dangerous. So why would you meet them in the building or have an ex-party gathering of both parties to the thing? It's stupid. You have yeah. So anyways, the fact that she, as a famous person, went in the front means she wanted to be seen, in my estimation. There's also a second secret entrance that, like, super rich people, the court arranges for that so they don't wreck the whole court building by showing up. You know, if Al Pacino has to file a restraining order or like file some sort of, like, I don't know if he went through custody or if it was a civil suit, something like that, with a crazy stalker or somebody like that. They don't want him walking in the front because the whole place would go bonkers and no business would be done. Nobody would, I mean, there's normal people trying to go through their normal court shit. It's already annoying and difficult enough. And you wouldn't want him walking in the front. It's terrible. So they bring him in through, like, this tunnel. If you're just a schmo like me, you know, and people are glad to see you, but it's not going to, you know, grind everything to a halt because you know where you're going and you get there quickly. You can just come in the side. Nobody, and unless you tell TMZ you're going to be there, they won't know. They're not going to film the front either because they don't really believe, TMZ will not film the front of the courthouse because they don't believe anybody who legitimately is worthy of getting a snap of for, because they're trying to hide something, would go in the front. It's stupid. Why would you? You would only go in the front if you want to be seen on purpose. And that's what she did. I have very glad stalkers. That's right. That's right. And unless you called TMZ beforehand. Exactly. So, and like, I mean, it's heartbreaking. It's like, I mean, it should be abundantly clear that after watching a good deal of this, that I was kind of, I was sort of non-committal to any of it, but man, after watching her testimony and his testimony and their friend's testimony and like her lack of friends, that's the amazing thing, is that she's got, like, her assistant was like totally against her, and everybody she brings up that's supposed to be a supporting witness is either, questionable, isn't really selling it, or frankly isn't there. Like, she just, and that's kind of, it's the difference in these situations. And she got caught in perjuring herself from the original trial in England, apparently. So that was the other big news from that. But I mean, the whole part about, I think the most shocking part for me, and I talked to a couple of friends about this, and I even on the air once. But I have been in situations with a woman I was dating, 2 of them actually, where they felt they could be physically violent because they knew if I did anything in response, I would be the one in trouble. And it's very paralyzing in those moments, because you have to get distance from it. You have to basically find a way in that moment to leave the space, so that from that moment on, anything that happens is not you. No one can say it is you. So you either need a witness, you got to get on the phone with somebody and lock yourself in a room, which is what Johnny did, or you got to leave the space and call somebody immediately. And pre-cell phones, this was a real difficult thing to do. But you had to basically like de-escalate the whole situation, move away from the situation, and get like a day's distance to where they're not claiming anything in that space, because they can't. There are no, there are no marks, there are no bruises, whatever, for 24 hours. They can't do that. If they haven't done it in that amount of space, then that's when the breakup happens, because you can't go back into that space and fear that the next time they're going to have a shot at framing you for striking them or harming them. If they haven't done it now, they will do it at some point in the future. And the way when they talk about that kind of stuff, and then they can physically abuse you all they want. They can strike you, and you just got to take it. And I've been in that situation with 2 exes, and it's a scary situation to be in. This was before I was known, so I didn't have the kind of like, oh my God, they might leverage my notoriety or celebrity against me in that situation. It was just simply interpersonal, and that was hard enough. I can only imagine that, one phone call and your entire career blows up, and so they have that constant leverage against you. That's rough. Hi, Chip. Hold on, Chip came by to say hi. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? What are you doing? They want to see you. You can't just come by and then not say hi. You can't just come by and not say hi. Look at this big kitty. Look at this big kitty. He's such a big kitty now. He's growing. His head's still got some growing to do, but he's growing. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. How are you? What's he doing? You okay? What's my boy? There it is. Yeah. You want to lay down? Yeah, there you go. There he is. There he is. Should I get, like, put now that I have some desk space, put a little, like, cat bed over there, and then just get a chip cam mounted from the ceiling? Hi, buddy. Yeah. Hi, buddy. What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? Did you have a good breakfast? Did you have a good breakfast? There's some of this cat food that, like, we give him in the morning because he's starting to even out. He's a big cat now, so his head's still got to grow. So he's going to put on a little pounds, and then he's gonna be a big cat when he's done. But he's still growing a head, and so I started tapering the amount of food I give him in the morning because he still expects to be fed in the morning. So I give him, a little bit less. So I split a smaller thing of it. And there are these pouches of cat food that have like shredded tuna and shredded chicken or whatever that it would give him. And he just noticed the other closet door is open. So he's like, oh, it's open. I can go in there. Do I have small cats? Yes, we have one small cat. And Chud she's a whole lot of woman, but she's short-legged and stubby-nosed. He's just a big, long cat. He is already big, yeah. But his head isn't big yet. He's still growing. I need a lap extender. Yeah. Hi, buddy. Yeah. Anyway, so I switch it up every morning, but no, don't play with my headphones. Thank you. Just lay there. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. He growls when he eats. This one particular brand, he's like, because it's so good. Like, stay away, yeah. No, Molly is our small cat. Molly is tiny. Are his eyes still crossed? No, not really. No, they've evened out, haven't they, buddy? Yeah. Yeah. Star Wars is on the way from Spider-Man No Way Home. Oh, that's good. Well, I mean, it'll look good. I don't know if how much story input it'll have. And Turkey is in the news because they're being dicks about NATO expansion. NATO should understand, respect, and support Turkey's security sensitivity, Erdogan says. Yeah, that's the guy who, when Trump was in office, his security forces beat up Americans on American soil and then didn't see any. Yeah. Sweden, we don't understand why Turkey opposed our entry to NATO, saying we support terrorists. Also, Sweden, giant PKK flag recognized as a terror organization by EU. U.S. displayed in Stockholm today. Yeah, because they're trying to stir up shit. They want to drive a wedge between. This isn't like all Swedes are doing this, for fuck's sake. They just have the freedom to do it. We have freedom of speech. They don't have quite as much freedom of speech as we do, but close. And Turkey has, it's whimsical free speech. Russia is violating the spirit of the Montreux Accord by using civilian ships for war. You don't say. Well, that's because their military ships keep getting sunk. Yeah, they're bringing in arms and munitions and stuff into the Black Sea on civilian ships, which is a no-no. Hey, don't. Hey, those are my headphones, and I need them later, silly. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing, big man? Huh? What are you doing, big man? That's my big man. That's my big man. That's my boy. You okay? That's a boy. You want to go crawl around outside? Okay, hit it. Hold on. I got to close this closet because you're going to go inside there and and that's a no-no. Yeah, there you go. Out. Shoot. There you go. Get. There you go. All right, you're fine. And my roller is outside. It's just, what am I going to do? All right. So this will play out. This is the Turkey, the Rand Paul of NATO. This is us. Summer is going to watch the finale tonight, or she did already, I think, or she's going to. Reports of UFO sightings frequent and continuing. Hey man, let me tell you what. I got to tell you something. One time, me and my buddies were out there and I saw a bright light and felt something in my rectum. And that's when I realized that I had been hit by a car that had a deer tied to the front of it, and that was an antler. I don't think they look quite like that, but sure. Tuesday morning was monumental. It's the first congressional session on UFO sightings in over 50 years. They call them UAPs sometimes, unknown aerial phenomenon, because technically they are not flying. They are just in the sky. Most of these sightings fall into 5 groups. Airborne clutter. That's all we need. Alien hoarders. Someone needs to figure out how to ask the question, does this spark joy in Andromedan? Andromedan, yeah. National atmospheric phenomena. Oh, you mean like Russian lightning versus American lightning? U.S. industry development programs. Yeah. Hush stuff. Foreign adversaries or other. I think other is the part that people are most concerned about. And this one. This is the one. This is why they're actually having an oversight. Because quite frankly, in this day of drones and shit, yeah. Let's see. Mariupol defenders face trial for war crimes. Oh, you mean from Russia? And weeks of resistance among Vostokol. The last defenders of Mariupol have been taken to a Russian prison colony where they face trial as Nazi war criminals. For fighting on behalf of their invaded homeland and to defend the country that is run by a Jewish president. And those guys held the Russians in Mariupol fighting that one stretch of land for an interminable amount of time. Time those soldiers could have spent possibly taking Kiev and other places. So even though they didn't manage to ultimately hold the place, what they did was secure the safety of a bunch of other places, because Putin was so driven to take Mariupol that the longer they made him fight there, the safer other people were. Yeah, there it goes. The defense of Mariupol cost Russia time and troops as it tried to open a land corridor to the Crimean Peninsula, which it seized from Ukraine in 2014. Still not, and then basically they had to hold them off till they could seal up the waters around there too, or get them within, where the boats are in firing range, and that's what they did. Yeah. Fascinating. Oh no, Boebert. Trump banking fails to help Madison Cawthorn. Let's see Green and Boebert fall next. Okay, yeah, everybody's asking if she's going to lose her job. Yeah. Tweets from House Freedom Caucus members about racially motivated mass murder in Buffalo. None. Right. Oh my God. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gohmert went to the mayor's office this morning. I think to Bowser's office. Yeah, this bullshit. Hold on, let's see if I can. I'll put my headphones in for this one. See if it's not too terribly loud. She and hold on. I turned this down earlier. She showed up at Mayor Bowser's office to talk about how poorly treated the Jan 6 people were, and she calls them political prisoners of war.
To match them. We have been denied the ability to go back and have a tour. We've been denied even a phone call and an answer back. So that's why we're here today at her office.
Not your district, dum-dum.
To say you need to give us a visit.
No, she doesn't. And you have to understand the baseline of this. This is Republican House representatives arguing that they should have, that federally elected politicians from other states should be able to run roughshod over the mayor, the chief of police, the judicial system in any city in America. If this isn't DC, if they decided to do this in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or if they decided to do this in fucking, Davenport, Iowa, do you think the Republicans would be, and it wasn't them, it was, I don't know, fucking AOC and Mo Ro Khanna, they show up and they go, we demand that the mayor return our phone calls because we're from the federal government. They would flip out. Republicans would flip out. And yet,
owe this to all of the people that we represent.
No, they don't, because you're from Georgia, he's from Texas. Piss off.
Across the country, and
you don't represent people across the country. You represent 2 districts, one small district in Georgia and a small district in Texas. These are not nationally elected politicians at all. Think about the ego involved in thinking that as a rep for one particular district, you consider yourself sort of on a presidential tier. Even senators, they represent the entire state. They're one of 2. But they don't represent the states on either side of their state. And if they said so, I think a lot of the other Republican senators, for example, in Wyoming, and if somebody in North Dakota started saying, I represent the people of Wyoming and Idaho and Nebraska and all these other states around me, they probably have a problem with it.
And this city needs cleaned up. There's homeless people all over the city.
Yeah, clean those people up. Scoop and get a bulldozer or something.
Crime is out of control.
Well, it's not out of control. Let's look, shall we? Let's give it a shot. I'm excited. Let's hold on. Let me grab this. Let's see what. I'm sure there's. It's DC. DC's always had issues. Obviously, Marion Barry and his famous cocaine use. That would be out of control. In control would be like, well, we've got police and we've got judicial system. We've got stuff, that we normally operate because we're a big city. And then there are normal people going about their lives. And then there's some criminals who are trying to act on that. That's sort of in the controlled state because criminals are always going to exist. You're always going to have somebody who catches them and somebody who tries them and a place to put them. That would be the control structure. Out of control would be Marion Barry doing blow on his desk. That would be, but okay, let's see. Washington, D.C. crime statistics. Okay. The reflected data entered in the MPDs as of 12 a.m. The date above. The homicide numbers are based on the numbers submitted by the homicide branch. Okay, so last 2021 there were 70 murders in DC. This year there's 73, a 4% jump. Yeah. Sexual abuse 55, it's down to 45, down 18%. Assault with a dangerous weapon 531, 517 is down 3%. Now, this is probably for the whole year, and we're not done with 2022. We're only halfway through. So, obviously, they're saying these numbers point to, a bad direction. Robbery, 583. Lots of robberies. Robberies are way up, 46%. That would be the thing. This is with or without a gun, we'll see. I guess I'm assuming that these are armed robberies. This is carjackings, more than likely. Violent crime total is up 20%. 200 more instances than the year before. 1,400 instances of violent crime, and stacking all these things together in a city of what, 3.5 million people? Okay. Burglary, 406 versus 370 is up 20%. And this is what you're going to, theft and robbery are the big ones that are up compared to before. And this is, by the way, more than likely reported and or someone caught for it. Motor vehicle theft, 6%. So I don't know if carjacking is considered in this stuff, or if it's just because they usually don't keep the car. I don't know. They use it and dump it. Theft from auto, 2%. Theft other, 4%. A lot more others than anything else. What they steal? Just some stuff. Theft from auto, right? These are breaking in windows and stealing purses and radios and whatever the hell out of cars. Arson, down 67% from 3 to 1. That's good. Property crime totals, 76,000. It's at 79,000, up 4%. So there's a very strong chance it will be up, 10% or 12% over the year total. Year-end crime data, let's see. Homicide was up 14% from 2020. And sexual abuse down 1%. I mean, these are all marginal. 2%, 3%, 8%, 0% difference. All right. Arson was again down even from 2020. There were a lot more fire set, and I guess we're going with the riots. 13 fires set to 4 in 2020 to 1 this year. Total property crime 24,296 in 21. So it was up 3% rise in crime from that before, and then a total property crime 4% and 7% over time. Now let's see statistics and data. Is there when is this? Nope. Let's see. Where's covered firearms? Let's see. 20-year. The 20-year homicide trend. Yep, definitely up 100 since 2012. Let's see. This is there was a big spike in 2016, and then a drop right in 2017, and then rolling into the Trump years, there's a big jump at 2018, 2019, then 2020. Still some holdover. Until policies start getting kicked in. Let's see, 2002. Oh, this is 20 years. So 2012. My light go on. Hey Siri, stream. My side lights go off. Here we go.
Stream coming up.
Thanks. Look at 2002. So it was starting to taper, basically, to here. Yeah, we're still below the 2002 numbers. The fuck was up in 2002? That's really interesting. Look at this right here. 2002 is 262 murders. That's basically, we're on track for is there like a 20-year cycle that we got to start looking at psychologically? Hey, homicide closure rates. This is always the indicative thing. 23, let's see. Yeah, in 2013, they had 79% clearance rate. They knew who it was, and they arrested somebody, and blah, blah, blah. We're down to 69%. 68 in 2019. 66 in 2018. And they're clearing the same material number almost. 2005 to it's 2012 to 88. They got 81% of the 88 cleared. That's good. 69% of 198 is not. That means half of the murderers are still on the street. That's your number right there. That's why there are more murders. That's your rising murder rate. is you catch people and then they don't go away. Or you don't catch them, you don't clear them.
And it has a jail that is clearly a dangerous place.
Yes, jails are, I don't know if you know this, jails are not places you want to go to.
For people to be, because they're dying last week, and then these pre-trial January 6th defendants have been held months on end, being abused as political prisoners of war by...
Wow. Being abused as political prisoners of war. No, they are not. They have lawyers. They could have gotten out. Most of them threatened the judge or other people. That's why they were denied. That's why they're pretrial detainees, because they cannot either make their bond because the bond was set high on purpose because they're fucking dangerous, or they were denied it because during their trial they were like, I was told by the president to kill people, and then or they're spitting on on guards and shit like that. They think that they're soldiers of Trump. And that's why they're not getting let out, stupid.
Not only federal judges, prosecutors at the Department of Justice, but also the D.C. jail where Kathleen Landerkin is probably still the deputy warden. And she says herself how much she hates Republicans, hates Trump, and hates the people that are being held in the jail.
Yeah, I might be a surprise to you, but I'm going to guess that most wardens are not fans of the kind of people that they have to incarcerate. Murderers, child molesters, drug dealers, gun traffickers, violent criminals, armed robbers, attempted murderers, poisoners, torturers, child abusers. I'm going to guess as a warden, when you come to work, you're like, I gotta, what I have to work up is my ability to not do awful to these people every day. That's the work of that job. I didn't intend to include the middle finger. That was happy. Okay, yeah. Right, so that's it. That's how you can tell it was an insurrection, because she admits that they're political prisoners of war. And then they were turned away. This is, the Patriot takes. They were, told to piss off. We're delivering a letter to her about how we think they're being treated. Go pound sand. And I think Ron Filipowski, he got her, and then Gohmert tried to say he's doing a bill to give them to help DC get their to not get taxed because they're not a state. I mean, they're functionally a part of Maryland, for fuck's sake. DC is not going to get statehood by itself. It isn't. It's the capital city. It's not how it works. There needs to be some other structure. They get all kinds of federal support and federal infrastructure without even needing statehood. Puerto Rico, on the other hand, should be a state. Hold on. Is this fucking... He's such an idiot.
Get there. And by the way, no taxation without representation. If y'all would encourage other members, I have a bill that would end all federal taxation until when and if such time there is representation, but don't get any support from the leaders of DC. But it's important.
What the hell? I put up a bill that we shouldn't. We're not going to tax the people of DC until they get representation. Of course, that would tacitly mean that they don't get funds as well, and they kind of abdicate emergency stuff, and it would keep the state from. It also includes shit about keeping the federal government from coordinating with the city representatives, so that we could undermine safety and security in Washington D.C. because I want the place burned to the ground. Good Lord. Yeah, sir, this is a Wendy's. Oh, God. Yes, you can. Yeah. Again, no one brought a gallows to the SCOTUS houses. Totally different animal. We need answers. From the DC jail. Is this making noise? Is this? I don't hear anything. I'm like, fucking lame publicity stunt about nothing. What does that have to do at all with your constituents? Mark Cuban supports Biden's proposal to forgive $10,000 in student debt per borrower as long as the ridiculous tuition fees are addressed alongside it. Yeah, well, I mean, it's, as far as state schools and stuff, it kind of is. There's just this big, like, jerry-rigged version of things. They've through Pell grants and state grants and grants like tax dollars to states to allow them to lower the prices at in-state schools for in-state tuition. That's how they do it. If you leave state to go some other school, they can charge whatever the fuck they want. If it's worth it, it's worth it. If you live in California but you go to Harvard, Harvard can charge you whatever the fuck you want, and whatever the fuck they want, really. Marvel's She-Hulk trailer is finally here. That's exciting. She-Hulk attorney at law. That's great. Okay. Uh-oh. Kansas Supreme Court. This can't be good. Sorry. Redistricting hits keep on coming for Democrats. The Supreme Court has upheld the congressional map drawn by the GOP-controlled legislature that makes actually third districts more difficult for her. A lower court had struck down the map. Republicans win again. The Democrat majority Kansas Supreme Court just ruled to uphold the Republicans' congressional map. Also a huge win. I mean, it's fucking Kansas. It's not that surprising. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win. Oh, Eddie. Why is Eddie trending today? May 18th, their top in her honor. Here's the late great rendition of Eruption. Basically, once it starts, it just keeps going. Oh, Edward. We love you. Oh, the top 5 guitar players. Who are the top 5 guitarists? Kirk Hammett. What? Over Jimi Hendrix? Good. I agree Zakk Wylde should make the list. I mean, we're talking like Eddie, Steve Vai, Zakk Wylde. I would argue John Sykes and Ace Frehley. Because it isn't all about just technical prowess. It's about inspiration and the like, too. Yep. Anyway, so that's the update. Good morning, everybody. You're watching Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide, which is a much more laid-back version of the show. We check in on the trends and look at stuff that's happening in the newsage. And hold on, let me pop back in here. How you guys doing? Hello, hi everybody. Where's Joe Satriani? Agreed. Nuno Battencourt is fantastic. Stevie Ray Vaughan, terrific. This is Dwayne Allman. There you go. This is the ridiculousness about the best evers. Like, it's such an odd, like, need that people have. You know who the best guitar player is? The one that touched you the most with their playing. Rick Emmett of Triumph is amazing. Ty Tabor. Bruce Kulick's solos on Forever and Reason to Live add him to the list overall anyways. Alan Holsworth, yep. Vince Gill is amazingly underrated. He's a family friend. You know this. Vince Gill is a great guitar player. Can I fix the Facebook notifications? What's the problem? Is there none, Barbara, or are there too many? Does it not? It doesn't notify you when I'm on. Frank Hannon, Warren DeMartini are amazing. Absolutely. Alex Lifeson, sure. Malmsteen, sure. Brian May, absolutely. Super talented. Yeah, the Bruce Kulick solo on Unholy is fantastic. You're absolutely right. Vince Gill has a ton of guitars. It's true. Prince, absolutely. We think of Prince as an overall musician, but he could have made a career on any instrument he played. Trower, Santana. To have in your shirt yesterday was to hold your earphone cords. Ah, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't pick the best guitars. It's subjective. That's the whole thing about music. That's why I think it's, I've always joked that the Oscars, the Grammys, Emmys, Tonys, giving an award for best art is ridiculous. And I will keep saying that until someone gives me one. In which case I will be an absolute hypocrite and go, this is so wonderful. Thank you for your recognition. You like me. You really like me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's set off a thing. And I have to say, I am not an Eric Clapton fan across the board. Every time I listen to his playing, everybody's like, yeah, totally. And I'm like, no. Like, as a blues player, like, he doesn't even, he's not even in the zone of like, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother is a better blues player. Yeah, I don't get it. David Gilmour, absolutely. Hal Sparks, best ficus ever. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Only ficus ever, but sure. Django Reinhardt, yep, 2 fingers. That's skill. Mark Knopfler, I guess so. And Clapton is pentatonic. There's a lot of pentatonic guys that are way better, I think. Hendrix is way better than Clapton. I mean, there's an ingenuity to Hendrix's playing that made him stand out more than almost anything else. Oriantha, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just never, like, the Clapton thing, I was like, what? Like, listen to Ace Frehley's solos, on the first 8 Kiss albums, and listen to just like the style, the personality, all that stuff. I'll put that up against anything Clapton's ever played. If you want to talk about, like, kind of keep it simple, stupid, clean playing, seriously. Listen to the solo in Shock Me on Alive 2. I won't tell my husband about your Clapton hate. That's fine. That's right. I think you don't have to. We can all disagree. Yeah. Yeah, Greg, Frank Zappa was fantastic. Yeah. Have you been on E-Town? No. I mean, I've been to E-Town, Elizabethtown in Kentucky, but I have not been on E-Town. Vernon Reed's fantastic. Lovely guy, too. Dweezil Zappa's an amazing player. If you ever want to hear some of, Dweezil just cutting loose, listen to Winger's cover, I'm serious, of Purple Haze. Because Reb Beach, who's fantastic, an amazing player, and Dweezil Zappa do dueling guitars, and they're mixed left and right. So you can, I think Dweezil's on the left and Reb is on the right. Roy Clark is amazing. Good Lord, that man could play. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. There are so many great players out there. The reasoning behind it, like, what's your favorite top 5, blah, 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 is like the idiot's version of saying, tell me about a song that touched you, or that made you want to dance, or that made you feel good, or that lifted you up or knocked you on your ass. That's a much better question. Like, what guitar solo, did it for you? What was that part where you're like, I could listen to this just by itself? Because like Surfing with the Alien or For the Love of God, which is, Satriani and Steve Vai, those as sort of guitar solo songs are some of my favorites. But like Zakk Wylde, like 1918 Eternal, that whole record, Jesus Christ. Or like his introduction as Ozzy's guitar player on No Rest for the Wicked. Like the solos and solo sections on No Rest for the Wicked are some of my favorite guitar solos of all time. Nancy Wilson is a great guitar player, especially her acoustic playing. Holy shit. Steve Harris is why you play bass? Yeah. Do you also mouth the words of the songs while you play because of Steve? For people don't know that, Steve Harris from Iron Maiden, as a bass player, he would lip sync the words as he played all the time. He couldn't help it. Still does, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, there's just too many good ones to name. B.B. King, sure. Glenn Campbell, right? Alvin Lee, Fletcher Dragg, Keith Moon. There you go. See, that's what I mean. Like this, yeah, we could do this for hours. There's no end to it. Nor should they. Yeah, Steve Howe. There you go. Yeah, Rip the Loop AM. Yeah, seriously. By the Loop. That's a shame. Campbell was the studio guy in Hollywood. Yep. I'm just like watching this Steve Martin and his banjo, right? It's not guitar players. We're going to get branched out into other instrumentation and get totally lost behind. Like lost in the mix. Hold on one second. Bober, that's okay. All these things have followed through. Now let's see. I'm going to grab something real quick. Scrolling. Let's see if I can find something in here. I mean, I like the fact that we started the show today talking about movies a little bit too, and then ended up talking about music. It's quite refreshing, I gotta say. Here we go. Madison Cawthorn lost to Chuck Edwards. Let's see. Just before conceding, he calls the leaks of his picks and vids a coordinated strike from other Republicans.
Congressman, there have been several photos and videos of you circulating online, on social media recently. What can you say to those constituents who maybe have lost some confidence in you and are looking for some other kind of leadership?
You know what, I'll tell you, there's been a coordinated strike carried out by really kind of the old establishment wing of our party. And I think it's a loser's mentality. They realize the direction the country's going in, the direction that the population's going in. And if they want to be able to pay off people from my past and try and bring up old pictures or things that happened years and years ago, I feel free to let them do that. I think the American people will see through that.
Well, they didn't, dummy. You lost.
Oh, you know what? The thing that I love about President Trump is that when you get your back pushed up against the wall, I've found that most people in politics, if it's not politically expedient to them, they'll turn your back on you in a heartbeat. But no matter what you are facing, when Donald Trump has your back, he has your back to the end, and that is why he's...
That's right. When your back's up against the wall and you got to push back, then Donald Trump's got your back when baby's got back. And by the way, this goes into the L column for Trump, and Cawthorn, like Trump is pissed that he said that because he's like, motherfucker, I'm stuck with the L. like, there's a bunch of like. I gotta say, I'm rooting so hard against Oz in this bullshit. Trump administration unlawfully punished whistleblower. Yeah, you think? Jeez, when did that? Louis Gohmert asked abortion hearing witness if mothers should have the right to drown a child. What the fuck? Ugh, God, these people are so gross. A Las Vegas paper just published a stunning editorial. We are struggling to identify Republicans who are not an active threat to democracy. Yeah, there's not a big wing over there. Yeah. Ukrainian flag on summit of Everest. That's nice. Kansas City prosecution of abortion not expected if Missouri ban triggered. Right. Oh, just the number of, it was just a stack of. Then I read the news today, oh boy, about a lucky man who made the grade. Is that their line? I think so. Okay, blast officials in action on gun laws. Yeah, Mastriano's going to lose the governor's race. Let's see. All right, this dude. Yeah, this is this is one of the things that, like, we have to recognize too, in the process of all the politics around this stuff. In the same way that there was sort of you could attribute left-leaning politics to the Unabomber, for example, some right-leaning libertarian shit too, but largely left-leaning stuff to the Unabomber, that there was a serial killer mentality, and these guys are just like burst serial killers. Think of it as binge serial killing. That's what these guys are like. And the fact that he like murdered and beheaded a cat, I mean, fucking hell, is indicative that that's who he is. That's, you know, he's basically a burst serial killer. And that even his reasoning is just like, he would have found a reasoning in any other time. He just used this as his, I called my mom and she gave me a box and I dug a shallow grave in the backyard. He wrote on March 25th. Honestly, right now, I don't feel anything about killing that cat. I thought I would be in pain, but I literally just feel blank. He also described smashing the cat on a hard surface after swinging around by its tail and other... Jesus fucking Christ. My parents know little about me, he wrote on February 22nd. They don't know about the hundreds of silver ounces I've had or the hundreds of dollars I spent on ammo. They don't know that I spoke close to $1,000 on random military shit. They don't even know I own a shotgun or an AR-15 or illegal magazines. So, so much for that not having an awareness of the illegality of his actions. Oops. But again, burst serial killers. Trump-era tariffs are imposing more harm on U.S. consumers than on China, Treasury Secretary. Some of the Trump-era tariffs imposed on China appear to hurt consumers and businesses more than address real issues posed by the Asian giant, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Wednesday as the Biden administration mulls lifting the punitive duties. American tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars of Chinese imports are due to expire in July, and the President Joe Biden has faced growing calls to get rid of the punitive duties to help combat the highest U.S. inflation in 4 decades. Speaking at a press conference in Germany, Yellen voiced support for such a move. Some of the tariffs imposed by the former president seem as though they impose more harm on consumers and businesses and aren't very strategic in the sense of addressing real issues we have with China, whether it concerns supply chain vulnerabilities, national security issues, or other unfair trade practices. Yeah, it's just gack. It's just boxes of shit coming over. Stuff you're not going to make here, you have no interest in making here. And America is moving itself up into, like, hold on, let me show you something real quick. I gotta find this, hold on. Yes, cheers. See if I can find let's see if we go this Asian Global. This is Hong Kong's number. Hold on, I gotta open this page. So most people think that computer chips are computer chips are computer chips. When in reality, the density of the chip and the quality of the processing that can be done on them matter. The production and design matters a lot. And most of the highest quality chips are designed by U.S. firms, and any of them that are made overseas are made either in Taiwan or South Korea. The chips that are made in China are toy level chips. They are the sort of mass produced level stuff. They're not quite the chips you'd see in a smartphone. They're more like the kind of stuff you'd see in, like, not even on motherboards, the kind of stuff you would see in, like, camera sensors for, like, mass produced CCTV cameras, or like I said, toys, sort of Arduino level chips. They're not really that dense. They're not very high quality. They make a lot of them very fast. So they're made, the kind of chip you would need in kind of like this mouse isn't the greatest in the world, but it does the job. But the chip that's kind of central to it working is low quality and easy to reproduce, unlike the one that's on, say, the motherboard or the graphics card specifically, or the processor or the logic board of my desktop, for example, or in your iPad or on your phone. And there's a huge difference between the quality of those chips and what you can do with them. And China's chips, even if they raided Taiwan tomorrow, if they successfully took over Taiwan, they would not be able to take over the chip manufacturing facilities there and get the same quality that the people in Taiwan are producing, currently with the people who run the company, because a lot of those people would flee and wouldn't want to live under that stuff. So the people that would be taking it over and running it would fuck up the whole thing. So, the digital Silk Road thing is what they're trying. But a lot of their stuff is, quite frankly, there's no innovation in it. Yeah, there you go. China's become a leader in 5G technology. By the way, the 5G chips aren't complicated to make. There's an illusion that somehow, because it's telecommunications, that they're high-density chips. They aren't. They're relays, which are old-school, easy-to-produce chips. But its level of innovation lags in a different sector. China's primary innovation challenge is its lack of indigenous capabilities in high-value digital hardware, particularly semiconductor logic chips. These are the ones that do all the work. And the ones that are made in China suck. I'm sorry, educate me on how China has lasted over these several thousand years. Well, it had multiple different variants. It's existed like Europe has existed. These provinces were kingdoms. The kingdoms were united. Then they started on this long march towards poverty and degradation because of the emperor system over time, just playing favorites and the like. They had a temporary boost when they got unified under the Soviet system when they with communism, because they basically killed 40 million people, and so those people don't eat or drink water anymore. So that'll save you some resources for a time, but then over time that system started to die, and they had mass starvation hit the country, and that's where Deng Xiaoping decided to open up to the world. They've had the greatest lift since they opened to the free market and interacted with it, and though they cheated and were went roughshod over people's rights along the way, they were kind of like the cost benefit analysis about them. The benefit outweighed the cost. That has tipped. Cops in Tarpon Springs shot and killed a teenager who was just walking around outside fucking around with a plastic airsoft rifle. Yeah, no. It looks like an AR-15. That's like saying they didn't do anything to stop this guy from going into the mall with his AR-15 because they thought it was an airsoft rifle and they didn't want to shoot somebody. Like it's if your gun looks real, you're going to be treated like you're carrying a real gun. Because if you use it on people and it turns out to be a real gun, the cops can't just have stood by and let it happen. That's absurd. From 2010 to 2020, China attempted to consolidate the semiconductor industry, encouraging domestic semiconductor companies to share research and development, have foreigners reduce export controls, and gain human capital with high skills from foreign countries. They sent a bunch of people over to go to school in the UK and in the US. In early 2022, however, China still does not design or fabricate a substantial number of the highest value semiconductor logic chips. Market share is less than 1%. And the Chinese share of the global market is less than 6%. Think about that for a second. Think of what you think about Chinese manufacturing in the modern age. Right? Think about what you've been told. 1%, the Chinese market, of all the things, I mean, they dominate the market on almost everything. As far as just manufacturing, baseline manufacturing. And yet they have 1% of the semiconductor industry and 6% of the global market. And even that, you know what that is? I bet you 100% that 1% is just the chips in the DJI drones. The single best indigenous product to come out of China. The DJI drones are fantastic. They're very well designed. It's private ingenuity. It's the closest thing to just regular, free development that's happened in China. Yeah, DJI is superb. It's a great company. They make great shit. And they're left almost entirely alone because they're never going to, because the drone market is small compared to other stuff, they're never going to outpace, be like Alibaba or something like that, where it makes the CCP guys nervous. So, hey, Sarah. But this is only part of the problem. The two highest value semiconductor logic chips are central processing units. That's the one on your motherboard. And graphics processing units. That's the one on your graphics chip, which is NVIDIA is not just the driver of just graphics. You have to understand that the quality of chips necessary for doing graphics is also the density that you, because it's the most like computation dense stuff as we go on, especially 3D stuff. And those are the same chip manufacturers who make the here's the NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA has been working on, let's see if it shows up in here, NVIDIA Keynote. Their chips are so good because of the quality of the graphics that they have to make using it and the density of calculations in it, that they are working on the AI chips they can literally, like the visual AI stuff that everybody's been working on. Yeah. This is, I mean, I can't stress enough how much like NVIDIA is going to have an impact on and is already having an impact on the world you live in all the time. If you talk to a verbal chatbot that actually speaks, it's more than likely going to be run off an NVIDIA processor. It's enormous, and it's going to drive the world over the next 10 years. As George Calhoun noted, in both categories, Chinese-produced chips are not only lower quality, but uncompetitive, even in China. Why is China chronically behind in semiconductor logic designs, fabs, and foundries? Does the country simply require more time, or is a different set of strategies needed? It's because there's no collaboration. They do not foster a collaborative atmosphere because of the government the paranoia between industry and government and industry there, that if you get too tall, they're going to knock you down. So nobody wants to, they don't want to create anything that hasn't been okay to already be created. Well, AI is way outside that zone. Because at some point, look to the CCP chairman being a CPU chairman. That the Communist Party will actually be run by AI before any other government on the earth, if it survives. Personally, I think it's the fact that if you stand up and go, hey, I have a great idea, you'll get knocked down over there. China can't even get its sewage together. Yeah, because you're always laying the problem off on somebody else. Got a new laptop with a great NVIDIA graphics card. Yeah, their AI systems are. I mean, it's everything is changing so goddamn fast. Like, you know, the change that's happened in your life since smartphones. These chips are doing that to every other process. It's going to be insane. The most immediate issues China faces in its semiconductor industry are competitiveness and quality. Yeah, as we've stated before. Consider Zhaoxin, a Chinese semiconductor company. It's the only Chinese company to produce x86 CPUs, arguably top-performing CPU, and it supplies its own semiconductor designed electronics companies. Yeah, Lenovo and Hewlett-Packard. Lenovo is really the only marketable laptop to come out of a Chinese company. Huawei and Tsinghua Unit Group have had their own subsidiary producing semiconductor logic chips, but they license core intellectual property from a British company, right? They get it from either the UK or the US. They get it from what they get from the UK is exactly like a US chip. They just don't want to say they're getting it from the US and it's somehow okay for them to get it from England. With the CCP, it's fucking weird. Despite being one of the world's top 5 semiconductor foundries in the world, China's SMIC, Semiconductor International Corporation, only began to produce 14 nanometer semiconductors this year. That makes it 3 generations or at least 6 years behind its rivals. That's an eternity. Yeah, that what they do is What they do is RAM. They make a lot of RAM. Cheap Chinese RAM all over the place. These are chips that are easy to produce, and there's a limit on them. There's a glass ceiling on how fast RAM can be before somebody comes up with an entirely different system. And they make a lot of RAM. They crank it the fuck out because it's a mass quantity kind of chip manufacturing. Logic chips are way more complicated. And quantum chips, which are the new industry tech forward, is, it's an order of magnitude from where they are. They're never going to be there. Even if they steal them, it's still not there. The government's Made in China 2025 strategy intends to supply 70% of China's semiconductor demand through indigenous design and production, but it is unclear if that goal will be achieved by the plan's deadline. Unclear. It's not going to happen. The only way they can do it is if they steal the technology and simply copy it. The U.S. Here you go. The U.S. semiconductor industry contributes 39% of the total value of the U.S. semiconductor supply chain. U.S. allied nations and regions, Japan, Europe, especially the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and Germany, Taiwan, and South Korea collectively contribute another 53%. Together, these countries and regions enjoy a competitive advantage in virtually every supply chain segment. The more digital we go, the farther behind China and Russia get left. Why are China's market share and quality so low? Its rivals have most of the latest technology. China does not. But why? It's not like they don't have technologically capable gear. It's not like the people are stupid. It's because culturally they beat their people if they come up with something fresh and innovative. It's dangerous to be ahead of the curve in China. That's the reason. And it's a shame, because think of all the ingenuity and creativity and just like work ethic of so many Chinese people that are just, it's not going to get used. It's being, it's lost revenue. It's lost innovation simply because of how the CCP runs. These people are literally, like, the smartest people in China are afraid of being found out to be smart. That's a recipe for disaster in a highly technological age. So, like, I'm always amazed how, like, ignorant people are of kind of what's going on in the world. Like, what's since Turkey's there's a lot of talk about Turkey and NATO right now, right? That's mostly what you're hearing is that's the 100% the story. I don't even know if you're hearing anything else. Erdogan's a prick and he's trying to keep Sweden and Finland out of NATO. That's what do you hear? That's most, and that they are, they facilitate, they've got a big standing army and they are the ones capable of blockading the entrance into the Black Sea. That's it, right? What you don't hear right now, Turkey is in the midst of an economic crisis marked by high inflation. The lira is collapsing. Economically, they're in deep shit. The Turkish lira fell against the U.S. dollar again today. One Turkish lira traded at a rate of 15 lira to $1 at the end of the day today. Turkey's currency has fallen every day since May 8th, when it began the day trading at $14.94 to the dollar, according to the currency data website XE. Turkey is suffering from debilitating economic crisis. The lira started falling sharply last year when the governor of Turkey's central bank was abruptly fired and the bank started to cut interest rates in December. By the way, they are going against the central bank idea that the Fed is, which is raising interest rates. They thought that would help. They're like, we don't buy it. We're going to cut interest rates. Well, they're not a reserve currency for anybody. So that's not going to help. You have to reference off the reserve currency, which is the United States. And so they didn't have to lower theirs at all, but they could have remained steady and let the Fed raise their interest rates, and it might have helped them out. But by lowering them, it fucked the whole thing up. The currency then strengthened to 10 to the dollar in late December after the government introduced a scheme to curb dollarization, right? Get people to stop buying U.S. dollars and prop up the lira. It's now nearing the low reached last December. Inflation is also skyrocketing and reached 61% in April. Let me say that again. Inflation in Turkey is 61%. You know how we keep seeing, like, inflation rose 3.3% in April and on the news. Like, I took a picture of it the other day. It didn't raise 8.3%. It rose to 8.3% year over year based on that this time last year, where we were still under COVID, still under lockdown. Nobody was going anywhere. They roll in, like, cost of meals in restaurants, which didn't even fucking exist. There's all kinds of reasons. And then you got supply shock issues, and that all stacks on top of it. In Turkey, it really did go up 8.3% in the month of April. Yeah. And yeah, people are talking about the, like, one of the reasons why the Dow is falling too is because a lot of these folks, all over the world who've got their money in the U.S. stock market, need that money to spend. They're selling stocks because their economies are falling off a fucking cliff. There's tons of Chinese people who bought American stocks under the table, through, bank shotted through Vancouver and, set up bank accounts and try to, fold money into what's safe in there. And while the Chinese economy is taking a giant shit right now, like, again, as much as, like, we are definitely experiencing inflation in this country, we're definitely experiencing supply shock, which is literally what it is, not regular inflation, CPI raise based on supply shock. And so we're looking at something over the, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Here's how okay. I want you to look at this first. China's economic data disappoint in April as COVID controls way high. Retail sales fell by 11% in April from a year ago, and more than 6.1% decline predicted in a Reuters poll. Industry production dropped 2.9% in April from a year ago, in contrast with expectations of a slight increase of 0.4%. The unemployment rate in China's 31 largest cities climbed to a new high of 6.7%. It's 13 to 15% among 18 to 25-year-olds. And in a country that big, that's a lot of fucking people. Shanghai City announced Sunday that it would start to allow restaurants to reopen gradually, and said Monday that the city aimed to resume normal production and life by the middle of June. They have to have 0 cases, though, or they'll shut it down again. China reported a drop in retail sales and industrial production in April, far worse than analysts expected. Retail sales fell by 11. Last month, persistent spread of COVID resulting stay-home orders, primarily in Shanghai, forced factories to close and operate at limited capacity. That's the supply shock we're seeing over here. That's why Janet Yellen says it's not a bad idea to let some goods back in and pull off some of these tariffs, because they're digging themselves out of a hole. There's no point where they're going to overtake our economy. That's gone. That idea is ridiculous. Not going to happen. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Fixed asset investment for the first 4 months of the year rose 6.8% from a year ago, slightly missing expectations 7%. Investment in real estate declined by 2.7%, while that in manufacturing rose by 12% and in infrastructure rose by 6.5%. Same amount of money across these three things. So this is how much, there's an enormous amount of money in real estate. They took it out, and that worked out to be 12% for manufacturing and 6.5% for infrastructure, which is, digging a hole and filling it in. Passenger car production dropped 41% year on year in April. They like half as many fucking cars in 2022. Auto sales dropped by 31% in April from a year ago. They were bad already. That's the other thing. There you go. Let's see. That was better than the peak of the decline in early 2020, down 37% year on year in January and February that year, but worse than the 0% year-over-year change for April 2020. It collapsed and stayed that way. Catering sales plunged by 22%. Nobody's going anywhere. Better than the 31% a year-on-year drop in April 2022. That's because there's fewer people to not go places. When no one's going anywhere, there's fewer people to keep not going places. Again, whenever somebody shows you a percentage and they don't show you a numerical value for that, they're either bullshitting you or you're not learning anything. In this particular instance, they're just talking about like returns on investment. Oh, this is fucking terrible. Jobless rate ticks higher, climbed to a new high of 6.7%. This is where we were last year. This is a communist country. What is unemployment? Shouldn't everybody have a job? Rose 0.3%. The jobless rate among the age 16 to 24 was 3 times higher, 18%. 18 to 24-year-olds, there's 18% unemployment for them. And this is the most educated class of people in China. The smartest up-and-coming class of human beings in China are 16 to 24. man. Total social distancing broad measure, then roughly half last month from a year ago. 910 billion yuan. Let's see. A broad measure of credit and liquidity roughly halved last month from a year ago. 910 billion yuan, which is 134 billion. However, Macquarie's chief China economist Larry Hu said he expected the drop in credit demand would be short-lived. Yeah, well, it's going to have to be. They're going to have to dump money into the system. Okay, and let's go back. This stuff. Fox News. Elon Musk, look at this, warns China economy could overtake U.S. as Americans must stop punching ourselves in the face. Tesla CEO says Americans need to step up our game and stop infighting. First of all, Tesla has a major factory in China. Second of all, no, it won't. And again, the size of economy is not the abstract size of it. If you have a billion people and everybody there has $100, you have $100 billion economy. If you have 300 million people and everybody there has $300, you have the same size financial economy as the place with $1 billion. Now, who is living better? The people with $300 in their hand or the people with $100 in their hand? And that's assuming it's all even, which it isn't. Because in the country where everybody has 300 on average, there are obviously people who will have, 250 and other people will have 50. In the other country, there's the same amount of inequality. There will be people who have, 95 and people who have $5 in their hand. That is not how you judge an economy. You judge an economy by how the baseline human in your country is doing. Yeah. Warns that obvious cause of inflation might make the U.S. like Venezuela. What? Supporting Amazon CEO's remarks against President Biden and warning that the obvious cause of inflation might make the U.S. become like Venezuela. Okay, Tesla's here. Warren said this week the U.S. must stop the infighting in order to be competitive with China, warning the world's second largest economy will dwarf America's output. Of course it will. It's got 3 times as many people, allegedly. And yet, this is like he's reading news stories from fucking 10 years ago. And he's also believing the bullshit of the people who operate around his factory when he goes over there, if he goes over there at all. What we're going to see in China for the first time that anyone can remember who is alive is an economy that will be twice the size of the U.S., possibly 3 times the size of the U.S. It's going to be very weird living in that world. So we better stop infighting. The U.S. stop punching ourselves in the face. It's way too much America punching itself in the damn face. It's just dumb. Think about it. We got to be competitive here. It's a new kid on the block that's going to be 2 to 3 times our size. We need to step up our game and stop the infighting. Look, they're 2 to 3 times our size as far as citizenry. They could spread that money out over all those people and still have 3 times as many problems as we have here. Let's see. Aerial view of the Tesla Shanghai Gigafactory at night, October 22nd, 2021, in Shanghai, which was shut down largely during that, and you're going to keep having that problem. You think this is the last time China's going to shut down? Purchased about, let's see. Chinese customers purchased about half of the 935,000 vehicles that Tesla sold last year, and Musk has said that he sees China as being responsible for 25 to 30% of Tesla's market long term, of course. Some analysts have suggested Beijing may try to leverage Tesla's presence in China and manipulate Musk's anticipated control of Twitter, but the electric vehicle pioneer shot that notion down last week, saying at an event hosted by the Financial Times that he's seen no indications of that effect. Well, wait till they say no one should buy a Tesla anymore after they've already got a stranglehold on it. Yep, there's the Dow Jones. Look at that. Fadoom. This is the Fed raising interest rates. That's what's causing this. Almost, and like I said, other people in other countries who are going broke, taking their money out to spend it. Because it was already overvalued and they want to get that value back beforehand. So, before it goes down too far. Again, it's at 31,578. Jesus Christ. Like, we're not even in correction territory with it. Yeah. Meanwhile, while he's saying that, look at Chinese economic news. Here you go. This is the BBC's news on it. China's spending and unemployment. China economy. China spending and employment hit amid lockdowns. Read more. Why is China struggling to sell fighter jets? Because they suck. HK shares jump after China cuts key mortgage rate. China Xi defends common prosperity crackdowns. That's the red lines that he had that ruined the economy. China new home prices see biggest fall since 2015. That's the nest egg of every Chinese person. Real estate is 30% of the economy, and it is the only investment the majority of Chinese people that have money to invest can put it in. They can't put it in the stock market. They can't invest in businesses that they don't make themselves. So if they want to invest in anything while they just have a job, they're going to buy real estate, and all that real estate has taken a giant shit. Why Christmas may be stuck in this is October 2021, which didn't turn out to be the case. These are backstories. Yeah, 17th of January. This is the last one. Shanghai lockdown. China spending and employment hit. Right. Yeah, totally. And by the way, this isn't going to change. This is materially, there's not going to be a change in the in how China handles these things going forward. They just aren't. Xi Jinping, yeah, here you go. This is 2 days ago. You don't think this has something to do with the get out of the way, with the stock market and other stuff taking a dip? Yeah, SpaceX and Tesla are fully funded by the taxpayers. Don't let Elon forget that. Yes, they wouldn't exist without it, without the U.S. government. True. Communism is just authoritarian totalitarianism on steroids. Agreed. Based on a flawed economic principle that has all the intellectual depth of, do you think the Hulk could beat up Superman? I mean, it is literally like trying to create a flamethrower using instructions on how to make a flint and steel fire starter. China has reported disappointing economic data for the month of April, underscoring the extensive damage COVID lockdowns have wreaked on the country, the world's second largest economy. I call it the world's number 2 economy for obvious reasons. Reported shocking drops in retail sales and factory productions, widely missing market expectations. Retail sales plunged 11%. That was below the, China's National Bureau of Statistics. That was below the 6.1% drop forecast in a Reuters survey of economists, which they were already panicking about. And that's after a 3.5% decrease in March. A man walks his dog through a nearly empty courtyard of a usually bustling Taikoo Li Mall in Sanlitun. Oh, I've been to Sanlitun. I've been to that place. Yeah, there's a Starbucks right over around that back that way. And there's a bakery right over here run by a Dutch dude who was really nice. And that dude's business is fucked right now. He was a really sweet guy. He brought over this yeast from Sweden that was in his family line forever, and he makes the dough from that yeast in China. And yeah, he left? Probably. Most have. A lot of there's been a tremendous amount of foreign flight, and it's going to get worse. Industrial production fell 2.9% last month from a year earlier, reversing a 5% gain in March. This marks the worst contraction in industrial production since February 2020, when China's economy came to a near standstill during the initial coronavirus outbreak. Unemployment also surged to the second highest level on record. The urban jobless rate hit and by the way, these are the numbers that they're telling you. Chinese numbers are notoriously, they're as bad as, the health evaluation of of Soviet leaders. Rising unemployment is a warning sign for the ruling Communist Party, given the risk of social and political instability. Yeah, because that's all they really care about, is keeping everybody just marching. After all, zero COVID at the cost of surging unemployment is a hard sell politically. Economic front, a hefty blow. China's economy was off to a solid start in 2022, recording 4.8% growth for the first quarter. Yeah, against absolute shit. Again, let's take a look, shall we? Do you guys, does this bore you? Does this, because nobody talks about this. China's economy had a good first quarter. Hold on. Lockdowns leave it in distress. Yeah, that looks great. It's a great graphic. China's economy made a solid start to the year, recording first quarter growth that surpassed expectations, which was, here's the problem. It was a lie. They were lying about those numbers. They were jump-starting those numbers and bullshitting everyone. You can't have all those boats backed up in the Shanghai ports, not taking anything out and have that kind of growth. It's nonsense. But a recent slump in consumer spending and rising unemployment suggests much tougher months ahead, with dozens of cities still under COVID lockdowns. They just started sending shit out again. And it was more than they thought they could get out. That's not saying anything. 4.8% growth over absolute zero is nothing. Surprisingly good economic performance in January and February, with several indicators for those 2 months beating analyst predictions. It couldn't be that they were false. A surprising good start to the year, but it may not last. China's economy, let's see. Where is the source? China's economy started the year on a bright note with several major indicators beating forecasts, but as COVID cases in the country spike, keeping up the pace of growth in the upcoming months may prove difficult. Retail sales rose 6.7% in the first few months of 22 compared to a year ago. What do I tell you guys about this year-over-year bullshit? Nobody talks about this shit in the news. Like, honestly. I mean, like, this is on CNN's business site on the website. They're like, if they discuss this shit, they discuss it at 6 a.m. on fucking Sunday. Industrial production jumped 7.5% during the same period, surpassing the forecast of 3.9% from nothing. Again, they're almost 100% shut down a year ago. Oh, God, this is so stupid. Under the combined effect of macro policies and the efforts of businesses, the momentum of China's economic recovery has improved in January and February, laying a solid foundation for a good start in the first quarter of the year, said Fu Linghui, spokesperson for the NBS at a press conference in Beijing on Tuesday. On the policy front, China significantly boosted its spending on infrastructure, with many local governments kicking off big projects in areas such as electric mobility and semiconductors. Bullshit. You know what? Hold on. Let me find this real quick. Watch this on this. Okay, fucking hell. So what do you think of, okay, remember the whole conversation about infrastructure in China? I'll let you guys go. I know I'm going over time today, but you know the conversation about infrastructure where they're like, it's only 9% infrastructure because roads and bridges, because we added our electrical grid to that, broadband, those kind of expressions of infrastructure in the United States. In the same way, an interstate highway system was incredibly crucial. Broadband across the United States, like fiber optic across the country, would be massive. And Republicans were bitching about that's not really infrastructure. Okay. I don't care what your opinion about infrastructure is, but would you consider the kind of NSA spying that Edward Snowden warned people about to be considered, would you consider that infrastructure spending? China's new infrastructure plan prioritizes national security in face of extreme conditions at home and abroad. China is once again looking to infrastructure to boost its slowing economy, but development and security must be well coordinated. Commission chaired by President Xi stresses need to enhance critically important technological infrastructure, including supercomputing and artificial intelligence. They're spending their money on building supercomputers and their version of artificial intelligence, which is just a dumb way of saying facial recognition software, for the streets of Beijing and Shanghai and Tianjin and Chengdu and fucking Chongqing and Hong Kong. They're not building roads. They're not building fucking electrical grids. They're putting cameras everywhere and setting up supercomputers to track every human being. They're not shoring up the physical structure of, they're not hiring like building inspectors to make sure. Sorry, beg your pardon. Is it? It is? My email is showing? Why is my email showing? I don't have my email on this one. Oh, see, I see, right there. Yeah, that's the dummy account I use. It's okay. Thank you. A long time ago, I created a dummy Gmail account so I can sign in quickly on things, but I don't use it. Thank you for that heads up, though. This is what they're doing. Look at this. All right, and then what do you have? You have fucking CNN Business giving them credit for investing in infrastructure and calling it electric mobility and semiconductors in projects such as bullshit. Their investment is almost entirely in policing their own people. Yes, state security is not infrastructure. What the fuck? And the idea that this is somehow the same, that you can even call this infrastructure, or that people do that, like that they just go, yeah, they're doing infrastructure shit. Like what? Like spy satellites and cameras on every corner, facial recognition software, AI to track that with your spending habits and your communications, lining up your WeChat and your Weibo conversations with your geolocation. Yeah, that's fucking infrastructure. Are you out of your fucking mind? This drives me crazy. Like the fact that it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And then you've got fucking Elon Musk telling people, that this is our, that we're worried about what they're spending all this money. They're building, high-speed rail. No, they're not. Their fucking high-speed rail is broke. Let me show you. You guys want to know one of the reasons? I know I'm getting on a tangent here. One of the reasons why we don't have high-speed rail in the United States? Yeah. You want to know why? And everybody's like, but, China's got all this high-speed rail, and it's embarrassing that we don't have that, right? Right? That's what you hear all the time, right? Think back. It's all shiny. They've got all this high-speed rail, and we don't have. Why can't we have high-speed rail? We have all this money and blah blah blah. It's because it's not cost-effective for most travelers. And they created all these trains to nowhere just to keep people busy. And ta-da! Whoops, sorry. Wrong button. China's high-speed railways plunge from high profits into debt trap. And this article isn't special. Like any article, go look up like China's, debt, and just search China debt high-speed rail. Just over a decade ago, in 2009, China's first long-distance high-speed rail, HSR service, covered the 968 kilometers between Wuhan and Guangzhou at an average speed of around 350 kilometers per hour. By the way, I rode the one that goes from Shanghai to, do we go to Tianjin? Anyways, I rode 2 lines there. By the way, Taiwan has a high-speed rail. It is largely state-funded and was financed. It goes from it's the length of the island. It goes from Taipei to Tainan, okay, through Taichung. Okay, zhong in Chinese means middle or center. Nan is south, Bei is north. So Beijing means north capital. Jing is capital. Nanjing is the south capital. Chongqing is east capital. East capital. In Taiwan, you've got Taipei, which is the Bei. That's a Taiwanese Chinese has a slight accent difference from Bei to Bei. So you used to have Peking. That's why we called it Peking for a long time. Peking. Taipei is the north. Taichung is in the middle, Tainan is in the south. These are the big cities in there, and the train goes right through them, and it's fantastic. And in Taichung, you find the original name for that island was Formosa when the Spanish held it, and Formosa oolong comes from Taichung in China, or in Taiwan rather. Taiwan's a country. And Formosa oolong is my favorite oolong tea. It comes from Taiwan, and it's wonderful. There's a lot of variations of it, but as a tea snob, Taiwanese Formosa oolong is the shit. And they have a high-speed rail that you can take from the top of the country to the bottom of the country. It's fantastic and it's great. Okay. They built it. That's all they needed to build. They didn't build a bunch of spider branches just for the fuck of it. They just go through the main cities. You're done. It's like doing San Francisco to San Diego, going through Santa Barbara and Los Angeles on the way, right? And by Long Beach, right? You'd have a stop in Long Beach. And just zip, 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 zip. That's all it does. Conventional travel everywhere else. And it's great. China decided to make a bullet train that has effectively got nearly as many stops because of the size of the country as a traditional train. So it's expensive. Not a lot of people take it. And it's empty half the fucking time. All right. Anyway, so just over a decade ago, this is later nothing. The feat was recognized as the Communist Party of China's debt-fueled response to the global financial crisis. It was sort of a railway Keynesianism, where that's where everybody's happy they're building, quote, infrastructure, because they view that as Keynesian response to inflation. Where China re-engineered its railway infrastructure to drive the demand for concrete and steel and create millions of jobs. Keep people busy. Idle hands, the devil's workshop. And communism, it makes it even worse because that's what keeps the uprisings down, or the down risings up. Yeah. Anyways, where China re-engineered its railway infrastructure to drive the demand for concrete and steel, China's HSR network spanned over a track length of 38,000 kilometers, the highest in the world, bagging a share of 26% of the country's total railway network. HSR today connects almost every major city in China with travel time just a couple hours more than air travel, but with the comfort that only trains can provide. In the mad rush to gain the rich economic dividends that HSR delivered on several profitable lines, especially the Beijing and Shanghai line, which works, which is why Taipei to Tainan works so well, because it makes a lot of sense. Just like doing one from New York to DC, for example, makes a shit ton of sense. San Francisco to Los Angeles would make a bunch of sense. Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles would make a shit ton of sense. And like the idea that you could put bullet trains for some transport of goods also on a parallel track, not for passengers, but for stuff from the port cities of San Diego and Seattle and San Francisco, and running stuff back and forth would be great. That's it, right? So, but putting it all over the place is ridiculous. Most new HSR lines in China have witnessed a sharp decline in their transportation density, measured in passenger kilometers, as an indicator of the project line's operating efficiency in terms of annual average transport volume per kilometer. For example, the 1,300-kilometer Beijing-Shanghai HSR corridor's transportation density was 48 million passenger kilometers in 2015 and continues to be high. The 1776-kilometer Lanzhou to Urumqi line was only 2.3 million passenger lines. It's the same expense, same train, same cost, same everything. You got 2.3 million passenger kilometers. You're taking that many people, that many kilometers per passenger over the course of the year. So it's not 2.3 million passengers, it's passenger kilometers. So however many kilometers, multiply the number of passengers by the 1776 and you get 2.3 million. Meanwhile, this one is shorter, 1318. Multiply that by the number of passengers and you get the 48 million number. Got it? Okay. It's a huge fucking drop-off. It's a longer line, and it's the same cost, and it's got 2.3 million versus 48 million passenger kilometers. It's terrible. Entangled HR debt. Yeah, so here it is. China Railway Corporation's investment payments have exceeded operating profits since 2015. So this is interest paid on the debt. This is operating profits every year. Look at this. This was before 2020. Can you imagine what the last couple of years have been? Fucking hell. 4 years later, in March 2021, China's State Council, the highest organ of state power, has waved a red flag to curtail investments in HSR to prevent the slide into deepening debt trap. The new guidelines have stopped the construction of new HSR corridors, primarily on underutilized routes that are operating at less than 80% of prescribed capacity. That's almost all of them, if not all, for that region. For China, which has seen the length of its high-speed rail network increase by 91% between 2015 and 2020, the new guidelines indicate the country's pursuit for high speed has come at a high price. For China, which has seen the length of its high-speed railway network increase by 91%, the new guidelines... Okay, that's the same quote. Okay, they're quoting their own article like a dick. Without mentioning a specific figure or even range, the State Council has asked all governments to ensure that their railway debts should be within a rational range by 2035. By 2035! Don't build any new shit and start paying down the debt on it because we're fucked. China's high-speed debt trap. Cato at Liberty Blog. As debt mounts, China halts 2 high-speed rail projects. The next Evergrande. Yeah, that's the other thing, too, is Evergrande has taken a giant shit. And they've got $2 trillion in railway debt that they have no way of paying off. Laos China Railway to launch as debt to Beijing amounts. Yeah, at least they're going to another country. That's the idea, that they can bring in dollars from another country. It's fucking, this is terrible. So all these assholes telling you that, like, it's infrastructure. They're going to build infrastructure. They can't build trains. And what are they doing instead of that? They're building, like, by the way, with AI chips, they have to buy from us. Oh, God. It's so like, oh, now you can't respond to most comments? Oh, no. Yeah, China has a ton of minerals, diamonds, cobalt from Africa that's not enough to sustain them. No, it isn't. Because you can make diamonds synthetically now. And cobalt is becoming less and less important. We'll be gone by then. Well, no, we won't. Build space stations? No. No, do not. Hold on. Hold on. First of all, not only did the Taichung 2 burn up on reentry, they didn't even have the technological expertise to track where it was gonna fucking land. The rest of the world was like, hey, control the reentry of your collapsing space station, fucko. It might land on some people. And they're like, nah, we're not interested. While some debris fell into a predetermined safe area in the South Pacific, most of the space lab burned up during the descent. Yeah, bullshit, according to the China Manned Space Agency. That's not what worked out. It just fell all over Eastern Europe. It reminds me of the scene in Real Genius where he's like, this is Philip Dodd, who's working on our new telecom satellite. Wow, Dr. Dodd. Telecom. Isn't that the satellite that's raining debris all over Europe? Why is that toy on your head? Because if I wear it anywhere else, it chafes. So no, you don't want them building space stations. You also... you want to know one of the other reasons why we have a shortage of baby formula over here? Yeah. 2008, there was melamine in the baby milk, and the powdered formula killed a lot of kids. And so they don't trust any baby formula for their kids at all over there. Even now. This is an article from 2020. How about this? Like, does anybody seriously? Does anybody know this shit? Has anybody like in all the conversations we hear about China's going to eat our lunch and stuff? Does it ever come from anybody that's actually fucking been there like I have? And and again, I don't think I have to. I need to be abundantly clear, and I want to make sure you know this. I have a lot of Chinese friends and Taiwanese friends who live in those countries. I have a lot of Chinese friends who live in this country, and this is not a reflection on them as people. This is a reflection on how their government operates. Period. And it's also their trade policies are such that it I guess everybody from the like business people just saw like a gravy train and were blinded by the possible, the greed of the system over there. Like here's another one. Let's see. This is 200. Yeah, this is about the same time. Open this in a second. There we go. That's not the right one. This is a Medium article. Let me one. Hold on. Here you go. I don't know. And again, I don't know if this is true. Okay, this is The Guardian. Here you go. Here you go. This is from 2016. Fake plastic rice seized in Nigeria amid rocketing food prices. Authorities warn about dangers of cooking the rice suspected of being smuggled into the country from China. Nigeria seized over 100 bags of plastic rice smuggled into the country, where prices of staple food are rocketing ahead of Christmas and New Year holidays. The suspect has been arrested for the haul of 102 bags of fake rice, which officials warned Wednesday were dangerous for human consumption. They're suspected to have been smuggling or illegally shipping in from China through a Lagos port. The 50-kilogram bags branded Best Tomato Rice had no date of manufacture and were intercepted Monday in the Ikeja area of the sprawling city, the officials said on condition of anonymity. How about, let's see. No. Let's see. Hold on. China, it's avocados. Let me see if somebody has this, fake avocados. Over there we had, yeah, here's a Quora chart. How do I avoid eating fake food in China? Let's see. When we were over there, so I'll just tell you this story. So when I was in China filming Explore China, the ironically pegged line was, "There's no better time than now to explore China." Ironically, there were a lot of better times. Looking back, there were a few people we interviewed, and we kept getting diverted away from people we wanted to talk to if the Chinese government didn't want us to talk to them. But at one point, there was this Australian dude who had steak restaurants in one of the cities we were in. Really good guy, and he was bringing in steak from Australia for customers who wanted it in China. So he'd bring in his own food. And basically, he had this agreement with the Chinese officials in the province that he could bring in his own food to serve at his own restaurant. He didn't have to buy anything there. And so they had to get around the tariffs, and the issues with Australia to do that. And it was a lot of work. But he was doing all right. He was thinking about opening up a second one because they were doing bang-up business. But if he missed a shipment from Australia, he couldn't replace the foodstuffs that he had in his own country from stuff in China, because he was like, we went to interview him, and I thought it was going to be this kind of, yeah, it's been great. We built this whole, sit up here, and people really enjoy the food, and we cook them in a way that's, it's old-fashioned Australian recipe, and that kind of baseline conversation about that kind of stuff. Just an interview about a restaurant. And he was like, the minute we started recording, he started going off on you can't buy anything over here. They make fake everything. They make fake rice. They take spaghetti and cut it into little pieces and sell it as rice in bags. They sell fake avocados. It's tofu dyed green. They put it in a half avocado shell and a fake pit in it with plastic pits. You can't buy. They make fake fucking hard-boiled eggs. I've never even seen that. He was just going off. And it was one of those things where the producer that was with us, it was Chinese who worked with us, it was like, he was going off on how hard it was to get stuff. Because everything was faked. They would fake everything. Bizarre. So am I worried? No, I'm not worried. I'm worried for the Chinese people. Thanks, Jolie. I tried it. My Australian accent's pretty pedestrian, which is what makes it work, I think. You can't, if you try too hard, if you go over the top, it can end up being, too much, if you dress it all up and roll it around, you sound like a British comedian doing a joke about Australians, But if you can, basically the best way to do an Australian accent is take that big Australian accent that they do on television and then just try to act like you're hiding it from everyone, like you don't want people to know you've got an Australian accent, and you just keep talking like that, and eventually, it's not perfect, but it's not half bad. Talking about food, you hear about Don Gorsko who ate 32,000 Big Macs every day for 50 years. 32,340 Big Macs. He ate one every day for 50 years. He didn't eat them that many in a day every year. He would have exploded. 17-year-olds should have voting rights. No. The new screen is epic. Very nice. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Thanks. It helps. Yeah, it helps to show some of this stuff. Let's look at. Let's see. Hold on. World. Here's a story. This is the Japan Times. Now, before I show you the title of this, and then I'm going to sign off on this because I'm going to let you think about this the rest of the day. Think about everything you hear from right-wing pundits on the economy about the US dollar. Okay? Just think about what you've heard them say, right? You good? You ready? You excited? Here it comes. Just get ready. This is from the Japan Times. Dollar's strength pushes world economy deeper into slowdown. Dollar's strength, the US dollar's strength, pushes world economy deeper into slowdown. Remember that whole thing about the petrodollar, and they're going to stop using the petrodollar, and the dollar's going to be all weak, and the soaring dollar is propelling the global economy deeper into a synchronized slowdown by driving up borrowing costs and stoking financial market volatility, and there's little respite on the horizon. That's because the Fed just raised interest rates and lowered the amount of dollars in the system. Which means we should be able to buy more with less dollars. We are on an international market. It feels like inflation here, but it's nothing like what they're experiencing elsewhere. But Biden's killing the dollar. Exactly. This is the Japan Times. Here you go. Let's just take a look overall, by the way, at global growth is slowing but not stopping yet. All right. Biden's burdens grow. Sagging global economy adds to U.S. woes. Thanks, U.S. News. Because of that dang super dollar. Global economic tremors complicate Western leaders' Russia sanctions. No, it doesn't. U.S. dollar strength, and complicate just means it's really nothing, but they're trying to make a news out of it. U.S. dollar strength is raising global economic risks. There aren't enough dollars in the system. There are not, let me fucking say this. I don't know how many times I have to fucking say this. There are not enough dollars in circulation. We did not print a bunch of fucking money during the global, during 2008, and we certainly fucking didn't do it during COVID. These countries that have U.S. bonds or pay their bonds for other companies in U.S. dollars can't get their hands on enough dollars because there aren't enough dollars in the system. That's why the price, the worth, the cost of a dollar is way up, because worldwide, people are clamoring to get dollars to pay their bond payments, and they can't do it. Everybody's like, they just print the printing press, they're throwing money. Like, you can't throw money at a lack of supply. We are not experiencing inflation. We are experiencing supply shock. The housing market blew up because the materials to build a house got more expensive, and it slowed down the production of houses to not meet the needs of the growing population in the United States, which is the one country in the, like, one of 3 countries in the world where the demography is not tapering like a motherfucker. Elon and his cult all claim dollars were printed during the pandemic. That's because they're fucking dumb. There are not an... All right. Is something you have a lot of worth more than something you have few of that people need? If people need it, whatever it is, water, if you have if you're at a lake of the clearest, purest water, how well do you think you'll do selling bottled water? If people could walk up and just splash it into their fucking face, what would the cost of water be? Right. Nothing. It'd be free. What if you're in a desert and you're the only dude with 6 bottles of water? How much do you think that water is worth to the first person that shows up with money? For fuck's sake. Fed rate hikes and stronger dollar are hurting global growth. Emerging economies are especially vulnerable as capital leaves. Well, where's it? It's not leaving. Where's it going? It's going to these big businesses that have to pay their bond and their debt, the interest on their debt, in US dollars, because it is the most trustworthy and stable currency on earth. And there is, right now, there are too few dollars in the system. Period. End of fucking story. By the way, folks, do you have too much money right now? Anybody listening to me? And I don't mean do you have more money than most people in developing countries or most of the civilized world, because you probably do by comparison, and your dollar's worth more, and you can go to the grocery, and even though eggs are expensive, you can fucking get eggs, right? I'm sorry I'm making you miss your med time. Sonic, oh, I'm busy. Shove off. I've got stuff to do. Right. Nobody's like, oh fuck, man, you could just like. And what was the big thing in Venezuela? People had piles of cash and couldn't buy shit with it, right? People were bringing the money in wheelbarrows. Remember? That's what happens when you've overprinted and your currency isn't worth shit. All right. Anyways, I got to go. I went 45 minutes over almost, so I will sign off and I will see you guys later. Can I just why? How is nobody on the news just calling bullshit on this stuff when they talk about it? Because the conventional wisdom you hear everywhere is the exact opposite of this. Everybody talking about this, like China's going to eat our lunch there, and all we do is print dollars, and we're going to be Venezuela. It's just fucking dumb. This is what happens when people smoke weed and watch Fox News at the same time. So to all those economic assholes that are on Maria Bartiromo's show or CNBC or all the pedestrian economics assholes who are on right now pretending that 2020 didn't exist, pretending that we're not coming out of a fucking recession caused by a specific event, COVID. None of this, any of the quote unquote inflation, which is again supply shock, bears like any correlation to previous inflations caused by monetary policy. And even those, again, I sent you guys on a mission. Anybody bother to do the homework that I gave out a couple weeks ago where I would say, go find a moment of inflation in American inflation, where we experienced, a spike in inflation that wasn't preceded by a spike in oil prices within the previous 2 years, if not right up to the day. No, it's not inflation. Inflation is a permanent state of affairs. It's based on the market growth and the use of the dollar over time. That's inflation. That's why it stays at 0 to 2%. They try to manage it. This is supply shock. This is because gas isn't going to stay at this price, and people are going to go, no, it's deflation. It's not deflation. Deflation is also a long-term term. Like computers are deflationary. Over time, even if the price stays stable, the quality goes way up. So the cost of that growth is effectively zero. That's deflationary. That's real deflation. Real inflation is about the expansion of the economy and how much money is in circulation and whether or not there's too much money in circulation. What we're experiencing is supply shock. The price going up, CPI raise, is not inflation. The consumer price index caused by a shortage of something isn't inflation. If you go to the store and you're there to buy apples, and normally they have a lot of apples, but suddenly they only have 5 apples, you're not going to say inflation has hit the number of apples I can buy, because there's only that many to buy. There are only 5 apples. They're not going to be 10 apples. There's only 5. There was 160 2 weeks ago, but now there's 5. That has nothing to do with inflation. That's supply. And if they decide, well, shit, we don't want people to just buy an apple and throw it away. They want people to buy it because they're actually going to consume it. So only the people who really want apples should be able to consume them. We're going to raise the price a little bit because, we only want to sell it to serious people and not run out when the people who are actually baking with apples instead of somebody who just likes to have one in their fucking fruit bowl on the desk and watch it rot, right? So they raise the price. That's not inflation. That's response to a supply shock. Fucking hell. That's right. All right, now I'm done with my rant. I'll see you guys later. You understand? I'm fine. I'm going to be all right. It shouldn't be this difficult to understand. I adore you. Thank you for your support. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget, oh my gosh, Maxwell, thank you for the super chat. Thomas, thank you for the super chat. Leslie, thank you for the super chat. Catherine, thank you for subscribing. Papazuki, thank you for following on Twitch. That's awesome. Jerry, thank you for the super chat as well. Kendo, thank you for gifting the subs this morning. That's awesome. Sarah, thanks for using the bits. Kazba, thank you for using the bits. And I will see you guys later on this afternoon for the regular show. I hope you guys understand that most of the panic you're seeing on the news is not based on reality. And that panic is having more effect on the negative aspects of the economy than the actual indicators of what the economy is doing right now. That's just true. And am I an economist? No. But I can fucking read. And I can also recognize that all the people who are saying this bullshit about inflation and the story that they're telling in the news totally removes COVID from the equation. And you cannot. Okay, bye. Sorry. See you later. Thanks for the apple.
no.